If you were pregnant during the 2020 lockdown, what was the weirdest thing someone said to you? I'll tell you mine. I got pregnant in December of 2019, so I was good and pregnant by the time the lockdown started. And when summer rolled around and I finally started to emerge from my isolation, I was about 7 months pregnant and I wanted to go to Starbucks to get a breakfast sandwich and a decaf coffee. And everybody has to stand on these 6 feet apart circles with their mask on. And this one woman steps closer to me with her mask on incorrectly, not even over her nose. And she looks me up and down and goes, "Are you seeing a doctor for your pregnancy?" I said, "Yes." And she goes, "Oh, well, you're glowing. You look so beautiful and healthy, but you should know your doctor is trying to kill your baby by asking you to wear that thing." And I was like, "What are you talking about?" And she goes, "Your mask? Doctors are trying to kill pregnant women's babies by telling them to wear masks. So you should not have that on. Your baby's getting carbon dioxide poisoning." I was stunned. I was like, "What are you talking about?" You were pregnant during the 2020 lockdown. What was the weirdest thing someone said to you?
So I worked retail my whole pregnancy, and I have a whole bunch of these stories about pregnancy, retail, and COVID. But the one that sticks out to me the most is there was this lady. We lived in a Trump kind of place, so that tells you all you really need to know. But she basically yelled at me because I wanted to wear a mask and she didn't want to wear a mask, and she got offended that I was wearing a mask near her, and she kept trying to yell at me saying, "Oh, I don't have COVID, you don't need your mask on, I prefer you not have your mask on." And I'm over here 8 months pregnant, and I'm like, I'm gonna keep my mask on. I'm going to make sure my baby is fine and I don't get COVID and harm my own pregnancy. Sorry.
You were pregnant during the 2020 lockdown. What was the weirdest thing someone said to you? I'll tell you.
Okay, so I found out I was pregnant March of 2020. So I was literally pregnant from the beginning of the pandemic in New York City during the first wave, the epicenter. And one of I think the most craziest thing to me that happened was that I worked at Midtime at the time. And I was an essential worker, so I was working. And I was walking to work, and these two palm-toed ladies were walking past me, and they started coughing very, very loudly and at me. You could tell because they didn't have masks on either, and I had a mask on. And they were like, "You need to go back to China with your COVID, baby. You're gonna kill us all. It's all your fault." And I was like, "What? I'm from here. I was born and raised here. What?" It was so confusing. I don't know. People are weird.
Sorry, I can't be your man. I'm sorry, she a fucking fan. I get bread, all these fucking bands. I was 7 years old, on God, I knew I was the man. Shit dropped out of school, I ain't never had no fucking plan.
If you were pregnant during the 2020 lockdown, what was the weirdest thing someone said to you?
This was actually during one of my prenatal checkups. I mentioned to my doctor that I would be opting out of the COVID vaccine while I was pregnant because I didn't really know anything about it at the time. And she got all up in arms about it. That, "Oh, well, your baby needs the antibodies." And so she pulls 3 other doctors into the room, and they all start grilling me about it and lecturing me and interrogating me about it.
Okay, so I wasn't pregnant during the lockdown, I don't think. I did get pregnant in 2020 though, and gave birth 4/19 of 21. Anyway, I was in the hospital because I had COVID, and they had admitted me so I could get steroid injections for my lungs because it had developed into pneumonia, which is very common with COVID if you don't know. And because I was pregnant, they just wanted to be safe and monitor me and baby for the next roughly roughly 72 hours. It was a little more than 72 hours, but about 72 hours. I was up on the 9th floor, which is a COVID floor. And the 4th floor is the OB floor. And I had a nurse come up twice a day from the OB floor to my COVID room to put the heart monitor and the contraction monitor on baby, just to make sure that he was okay, and he was never not okay. He was always fine. I wasn't having contractions. Everything was normal. I was 29, maybe 27 weeks. I don't remember exactly. It was in my 20 weeks somewhere. And this one nurse comes up one night, and most of the time they would just come in and they would like put the thing on my belly and then they would leave. Well, this nurse comes up and she puts it on my belly and she decides she's going to stay in the room, which, okay, whatever, I guess. I mean, I'm locked in this room and nobody comes in here to talk to me, so sure. And we're sitting there and we're having just, a general conversation. And she looks at me and she says, well, God, I really hope you didn't get pregnant on purpose. I can't imagine getting pregnant on purpose during a pandemic. And I'm just like, what? And she's like, yeah, all these irresponsible people out here getting pregnant during the pandemic. Like, God, that's pretty stupid. I hope you weren't one of those people. Okay, one, I wasn't. I didn't get pregnant on purpose. But that's none of your business. And two, even if I did get pregnant on purpose, it's my responsibility to take care of this, not yours. So, yeah, that was probably the rudest, weirdest, whatever kind of thing you want to say that was said to me during my pregnancy during the pandemic.
The 2020 lockdown, what was the weirdest thing someone said to you?
I got pregnant during the pandemic. And when I went out, I was about 7 months along, and you could clearly tell I was pregnant. And I was in Walmart, and this old man looked me up and down and said, well, someone wasn't very bored during quarantine, was they now? Like, that wasn't necessary, but okay.
If you were pregnant during the 2020 lockdown, what was the weirdest thing someone said to you?
Okay, not pregnancy specific, but pregnancy adjacent. I miscarried in November of 2019, and I didn't get pregnant again until June of 2020. And so in that 7-month period, I had a lot of time to dwell in my grief. And it was a really, really rough time for me, particularly when lockdown started in March of 2020. And so people who are very well-meaning would say things to me like, oh my God, can you imagine being pregnant in a pandemic? Aren't you so glad you're not pregnant in a pandemic? Can you imagine if you had to give birth or go through labor with a mask on? And in my head, I was like, you don't understand. I really wish I was doing those things. And so, yeah, that was probably the most messed up thing that somebody ever said to me during the pandemic.
If you were pregnant during the 2020 lockdown, what was the weirdest thing someone said to you?
Since I was a first-time mom, I would call the on-call option anytime I was coming concerned about anything. Every time they would ask me about feeling nauseous or having pain, they would always say I had COVID even before I stressed my concerns. I felt like being pregnant was a COVID symptom. Even my option would ignore me every time I had a concern.
If you were pregnant during the 2020 lockdown, what was the weirdest thing someone said to you?
Okay, so excuse the bad lighting, but basically what happened is that it was January and the vaccines were just coming out, and I'm part of an essential healthcare business, so we were offered the vaccines first. And basically we went in and we were lining up and stuff and getting ready to get vaccinated. And one of the public health nurses looks at me and goes, "Do you have a doctor's note?" And at the time I was like, "No, I don't have a doctor's note." And she said, "Are you sure that you should be going to get vaccinated?" I was like, "Yeah, my doctor did say it was okay." And I was one of those people who was like, "I'll do what my doctor says. It's totally fine. I don't care." And she basically eyed me the whole time, and she was looking at me and just staring at me. And as I was leaving, the public health nurse said to me, "I really hope your baby doesn't end up with a third leg." Don't at me, I believe in vaccines.
And subscribe. We publish new videos every day.